Tonight, as you get ready to sleep, we'll look at why staying calm helps you receive what is yours, according to Buddhism. With right intention and letting go, you can lower anxiety and rest better. You can fall asleep peacefully while learning simple steps to align expectations and calm. There is an ancient secret that Buddhist monks have understood for thousands of years, a truth so simple yet so profound that it can transform your entire relationship with life itself. This secret is not hidden in complex texts or locked away in distant monasteries. It lives in the gentle rhythm of nature, in the unhurried unfolding of a flower, in the patient journey of a river to the sea. The secret is this: when you learn to stay calm and trust the natural flow of existence, the universe delivers exactly what you deserve, often in ways far more beautiful than anything you could have forced or planned. Right now, in this very moment, you are about to embark on a journey that will change how you approach every aspect of your life. You are about to discover why your struggling and striving may actually be preventing the very blessings you seek. You are about to learn the ancient art of calm receptivity, the practice of allowing rather than forcing, the wisdom of trusting rather than controlling. This is not passive resignation. This is the most powerful stance you can take in life. This is alignment with the fundamental intelligence that orchestrates the blooming of flowers, the changing of seasons, and the beating of your own heart. In the mountains of ancient Tibet, there lived a farmer who worked his fields with dedication and care. One spring, he noticed that his neighbor's crops were growing faster than his own. Worried and anxious, he began to pull on his young plants each morning, trying to make them grow taller more quickly. He worked himself into exhaustion, spending hours in the hot sun, tugging gently at each stalk. After several days of this practice, his wife came to the field and found him collapsed in exhaustion. When she looked at the crops he had been so carefully tending, she discovered that every single plant had been uprooted and destroyed. The farmer's attempts to force growth had killed what would have naturally flourished if left alone. This story, passed down through generations of Buddhist teachers, illustrates one of the most common sources of suffering in human life. We are constantly pulling at the plants of our destiny, trying to make things happen faster, better, or differently than they naturally would. We exhaust ourselves with worry and force. We tense up with the effort of controlling outcomes. We stress ourselves into illness, trying to make our lives conform to mental pictures of how we think things should be. And in this desperate grasping and forcing, we often destroy the very blessings that were already on their way to us. The universe operates according to principles far more intelligent than our limited human understanding can grasp. There is a timing to things, a rhythm, a natural unfolding that happens when we align ourselves with life rather than fighting against it. When a seed is planted in the earth, it does not sprout immediately. There is a period of darkness, of invisible growth, of patient transformation happening beneath the surface. If you were to dig up the seed every day to check on its progress, you would destroy it. But if you trust the process, if you provide the right conditions and then allow nature to work its magic, that seed will burst forth at precisely the right moment in breathtaking beauty and strength. Your dreams, your desires, your deepest longings are like seeds that have been planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. They are already growing. They are already making their way toward manifestation, but they need the right conditions. They need you to stay calm, to trust, to stop digging them up with anxiety and doubt. They need you to believe in the invisible process that is always working on your behalf. They need you to understand that you deserve the harvest that is coming, and that your job is not to force it, but to prepare yourself to receive it. Consider the mighty oak tree. It begins as a tiny acorn, seemingly insignificant, small enough to hold in the palm of your hand. When that acorn falls to the ground, it does not immediately transform into a towering tree. There is no struggle, no forcing, no anxiety in the acorn about whether it will fulfill its destiny. It simply rests in the soil. It allows the rain to soften its shell. It permits the darkness to hold it. It trusts the warmth of the earth. And in this state of complete surrender to the natural process, something miraculous happens. The hard shell cracks open. Roots begin to grow downward, seeking nourishment. A tender shoot pushes upward, seeking light. And over years, through patience and trust in the natural unfolding, that tiny acorn becomes a magnificent oak that provides shelter and beauty for generations. You are like that acorn. You contain within you the potential for magnificent growth and transformation, but you cannot force this growth. You cannot hurry the process. You cannot skip the necessary stages of development. What you can do is provide the right conditions. You can stay calm, which is like providing rich soil. You can trust the process, which is like allowing the rain to do its work. You can believe in your own worthiness, which is like the sunlight that calls the shoot upward. And you can let go of the anxious need to control every detail, which is like giving the seed permission to break open and transform. In Zen Buddhism, there is a principle called Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-action or effortless action. This does not mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the natural flow of things rather than against it. It means responding to life with the flexibility of water rather than the rigidity of stone. Water never struggles or forces. When it encounters a boulder in its path, it does not exhaust itself trying to push the boulder aside. It simply flows around it, or gradually, patiently over time, it wears the boulder down. Water always reaches its destination not through force, but through persistence, patience, and alignment with gravity, with the natural downward flow. When you learn to live according to Wu Wei, you discover a completely different way of being in the world. You stop fighting against every obstacle. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control outcomes. You stop suffering from the constant tension of forcing and grasping. Instead, you learn to sense the natural current of your life and align yourself with it. You learn to recognize when to act and when to wait. You develop the wisdom to know when effort is appropriate and when surrender is required. You begin to trust that there is an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind that is orchestrating events on your behalf. This does not mean abandoning all effort or responsibility. The farmer still needs to plant seeds, water the crops, and prepare the soil, but he does not need to pull on the plants to make them grow. The oak tree draws nourishment from the soil and reaches toward the sun, but it does not strain or worry about its growth. There is a balance between appropriate action and patient allowing. The key is to act from a place of calm centeredness rather than anxious forcing, to do what is yours to do, and then trust the universe to do what is its to do. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that we must struggle and strive for everything we receive. We have been taught that life is hard, that success requires constant stress and sacrifice, that we must fight for every inch of progress. This belief system creates tremendous suffering. It keeps us in a perpetual state of tension and anxiety. It prevents us from enjoying the present moment because we are always worried about the future. It blocks us from receiving the natural abundance that wants to flow to us because we are clenched in fear and effort rather than open in trust and receptivity. The Buddhist understanding of life is radically different. It recognizes that the universe is fundamentally abundant and benevolent. It understands that you are not separate from this universe, but an integral part of it. Just as your body knows how to heal a cut without your conscious intervention, just as your heart knows how to beat without your instruction, the universe knows how to deliver what you need for your highest good. Your job is not to control this process, but to align with it. Your task is not to force outcomes, but to prepare yourself to receive what is already on its way to you. There is a beautiful story about a Zen master who lived in a small village. One day, the master's prized horse ran away. All the villagers came to express their sympathy. "How terrible," they said. "Such bad luck." The master simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 wild horses. The villagers were excited. "How wonderful," they exclaimed. "Such good luck." Again, the master replied, "Maybe." The following week, the master's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses and was thrown off, breaking his leg. The villagers returned with sympathy. "How terrible," they said. "Such bad luck." The master's response remained the same, "Maybe." A month later, the army came through the village, conscripting all able-bodied young men for a dangerous war. The master's son was spared because of his broken leg. The villagers marveled at the master's good fortune, but by now they knew what he would say. This story reveals a profound truth about the nature of life and the limitations of human judgment. We simply do not have the perspective to know what is ultimately good or bad for us. What appears to be a disaster may be setting up a blessing. What seems like a stroke of luck may be leading to a challenge that helps us grow. The universe sees a much larger picture than we can perceive from our limited vantage point. When we trust this larger intelligence, when we we stay calm in the face of both apparent setbacks and apparent victories. We align ourselves with a wisdom that knows exactly what we need for our evolution and fulfillment. Staying calm is not about being passive or indifferent. It is about maintaining inner peace regardless of external circumstances. It is about cultivating a deep trust that allows you to remain centered when life brings unexpected changes. This calmness becomes the foundation from which you can respond wisely to any situation rather than reacting from fear and anxiety. When you are calm, you can hear the subtle guidance of your intuition. When you are peaceful, you can see opportunities that anxiety would blind you to. When you are trusting, you allow space for miracles to occur that force and control would prevent. Think about a time in your life when you desperately wanted something. Perhaps it was a job, a relationship, or an opportunity. Remember how you worried about it, stressed over it, tried to force it to happen. Now think about whether you actually got that thing. If you did get it, was it as wonderful as you imagined, or did it come with unexpected complications? And if you didn't get it, did something else come along that turned out to be even better? Looking back with the wisdom of hindsight, can you see that the universe actually knew what it was doing, even when you were so sure you knew better? Most of us can identify times when what seemed like a crushing disappointment turned out to be a hidden blessing. The job we didn't get that kept us available for an even better opportunity. The relationship that ended, freeing us to meet our true partner. The plan that fell through, preventing us from making a terrible mistake. These experiences teach us that we can trust the larger intelligence that is orchestrating our lives. They show us that our desperate clinging and forcing are unnecessary. They reveal that when we stay calm and allow life to unfold, we are often surprised by blessings we never could have imagined or engineered through our own limited efforts. The universe delivers what you deserve, but your understanding of what you deserve must be examined. Many people sabotage their own blessings because deep down they do not believe they are worthy of good things. They carry unconscious beliefs that they must suffer, that life is meant to be hard, that they do not deserve ease and joy and abundance. These beliefs create a vibrational frequency that blocks the natural flow of blessings. It is like trying to receive a radio signal while broadcasting static. The signal is there, but your receiver is not tuned to the right frequency. Buddhist teaching emphasizes that your true nature is already perfect, already whole, already worthy. You do not need to earn your value through achievement or suffering. You are inherently deserving of love, peace, abundance, and joy simply because you exist. You are an expression of the same universal consciousness that creates galaxies and orchestrates the dance of atoms. How could such a being be unworthy? The belief in unworthiness is an illusion, a false conditioning that obscures your true nature. When you release this false belief and recognize your inherent worth, you naturally align with the frequency of receiving. Staying calm is intimately connected with this recognition of worth. When you truly understand that you deserve good things, there is no need for desperate grasping or anxious forcing. You can relax into trust because you know that what is meant for you will find you. You can remain peaceful because you recognize that delays are not denials but divine timing. You can stay centered because you understand that your worthiness is not dependent on external circumstances, but is an unchangeable aspect of your essential nature. In ancient Buddhist monasteries, students would sometimes come to their teachers in frustration, complaining that their meditation practice was not producing results quickly enough. They wanted instant enlightenment, immediate transformation. The wise teachers would often respond with a simple instruction: stop trying so hard. The student's very effort to force a breakthrough was preventing the natural unfolding of awakening. When they relaxed their grip, when they stopped trying to make something happen and instead allowed themselves to simply be present with what was the transformation they sought, would often occur naturally. This same principle applies to every area of life. Your career, your relationships, your health, your spiritual growth, all of these unfold more beautifully when you bring to them a quality of calm allowing rather than anxious forcing. This does not mean you do nothing. You still plant the seeds, you still water the garden, you still show up and do your part. But you do so from a place of peaceful centeredness rather than desperate need. You act because it feels aligned and appropriate, not because you are trying to force an outcome out of fear that it will not happen otherwise. The universe has a way of delivering exactly what you need, precisely when you need it. But your anxiety and forcing often delay this delivery. Imagine ordering something online. Once you have placed the order and made the payment, what do? You trust that the item is on its way. You do not call the company every hour demanding to know its exact location. You do not drive to the warehouse trying to speed up the shipping process. You simply know that it is coming, and you go about your life in calm expectation. This is the attitude to bring to your dreams and desires. You have placed your order with the universe through your intentions and your aligned actions. Now you can trust that the delivery is on its way. Your calm trust actually speeds the process, while your anxious checking and forcing would delay it. There is a profound peace available to you when you truly embrace this understanding. It is the peace of knowing that you are held and supported by a benevolent intelligence. It is the relief of recognizing that you do not have to control everything or figure everything out. It is the joy of understanding that your job is to stay calm, trust the process, align with the flow, and allow the universe to deliver the abundant blessings that are your birthright. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is available to you right now in this moment, regardless of what is or is not currently manifested in your physical reality. As you continue through this teaching, you will discover practical ways to cultivate this calm trust. You will learn ancient Buddhist practices that help you release the habit of forcing and embrace the art of allowing. You will explore stories and wisdom teachings that illuminate the path of Wu Wei. You will discover how to recognize when you are flowing with life and when you are struggling against it. Most importantly, you will begin to taste the freedom and peace that come from finally letting go of the exhausting need to control everything and instead surrendering to the perfect intelligence that has been guiding your life all along. In the heart of ancient China, there was a monastery known throughout the land for the peaceful countenance of its monks. Travelers would journey for months just to understand the source of such profound serenity. One year, a wealthy merchant arrived at the monastery, his face lined with worry despite his material success. He sought an audience with the headmaster, a woman of great wisdom known simply as Master Mei. The merchant bowed deeply and asked, "Master, I have worked tirelessly for 30 years. I have accumulated wealth beyond measure, yet I cannot sleep at night. My stomach churns with anxiety. My mind races with 1,000 concerns. How is it that you and your students possess nothing, yet radiate such peace?" Master Mei smiled and invited the merchant to sit with her in the garden. She pointed to a nearby bamboo grove, the tall stalks swaying gracefully in the afternoon breeze. "Tell me," she said, "what do you notice about the bamboo?" The merchant looked at the plants, puzzled by the question. "They bend in the wind," he replied. "Yes," Master Mei said, "and what about that stone monument over there?" The merchant looked at the rigid stone structure commemorating some long-forgotten benefactor. "It stands firm, unyielding," he answered. Master Mei nodded. "Last month we had terrible storms. The winds were so fierce that many trees were uprooted. That stone monument you admire cracked down the middle. But the bamboo, every stalk survived, not one broken. They bent so completely that they touched the ground, then sprang back when the wind passed." The merchant began to understand. Master Mei continued, "You have made yourself like stone, rigid and unyielding, determined to stand against every wind of change. This creates tremendous internal stress. We monks have learned to be like bamboo. We bend with life's changes. We do not resist what comes. We stay calm and flexible, trusting that we will spring back when the storm passes. The bamboo does not worry whether it will survive the wind. It simply bends, and in bending, it finds its strength. Your wealth is like the stone monument, impressive but brittle. Our peace is like the bamboo, invisible in value but unbreakable in essence." This teaching about bamboo and stone reveals something essential about the art of staying calm while trusting the universe. Rigidity comes from fear. When you are afraid that life will not provide for you, you tense up. You try to control every variable. You exhaust yourself, maintaining a posture of false strength that is actually profound weakness. True strength is flexible, responsive, trusting. The bamboo is strong precisely because it is willing to bend. It trusts that the wind will pass and that its flexibility will allow it to survive what rigidity cannot. When you stay calm in the face of uncertainty, you are not being passive or weak. You are actually positioning yourself to receive what the universe wants to deliver to you. Imagine trying to catch a ball while your body is rigid and tense, your arms locked, your muscles clenched. The ball will bounce off you, or you will drop it. But if you are relaxed and receptive, your hands soft and responsive, you can easily catch whatever is thrown to you. Life is constantly throwing opportunities, blessings, lessons, and gifts your way. Your ability to receive them depends entirely on your state of being. Calmness creates receptivity. Anxiety creates resistance. In another ancient monastery, this one perched high in the Himalayan mountains, there lived a young monk named Tenzin who struggled greatly with trust. He came from a background of poverty and hardship, and his early life had taught him that he must fight for everything. Even after years in the monastery, he could not seem to relax into the flow of monastic life. He worried constantly about whether there would be enough food, whether the winter supplies would last, whether his meditation practice was progressing adequately. His teacher, an elderly monk named Dorje, watched Tenzin's suffering with compassion. One winter morning, Dorje invited Tenzin to accompany him on a walk through the snow-covered mountains. They walked for hours in silence, Dorje leading them higher and higher into terrain that Tenzin had never explored. Finally, they reached a small frozen lake surrounded by towering peaks. Dorje sat down on a large rock and gestured for Tenzin to sit beside him. "Tell me," Dorje said, "how does this lake survive the winter?" Tenzin looked at the frozen surface, confused. "It freezes," he replied. "Yes," Dorje said, "and then what happens?" "In spring, it melts," Tenzin answered. "And has this lake ever failed to melt?" Dorje asked. "Has it ever remained frozen forever, refusing to return to its flowing state?" Tenzin began to understand. Dorje continued, "This lake has frozen and melted every year for thousands of years. It does not panic when winter comes. It does not worry in the frozen darkness whether spring will return. It simply trusts the natural cycle. It surrenders to the season of ice, knowing that the season of flowing water will come again. Your life has seasons too. Sometimes you are in winter, when resources seem scarce and the way forward is not clear. But spring always comes, Tenzin, always. The universe has its rhythms, and you can trust them just as this lake trusts that winter will give way to spring. This teaching about seasons is crucial for staying calm while trusting the universe to deliver what you deserve. So often, people panic during winter seasons of their lives. They are experiencing a time of apparent lack, limitation, or difficulty, and they conclude that this is permanent. They lose faith. They fall into anxiety. They begin forcing and grasping, which only creates more contraction and resistance. But if they understood that they are simply in a winter season, that this is a natural and temporary part of life's cycles, they could remain calm. They could trust that spring is coming. They could even appreciate winter for what it offers, a time of rest, of going inward, of gathering energy for the abundant growth that will come with the next season. The universe delivers what you deserve, but not always on your preferred timeline. This is where trust becomes essential. You may be ready for spring, but the universe knows you need a bit more winter. Perhaps there are lessons to learn in the quietness, strength to develop in the darkness, patience to cultivate in the waiting. The universe is not withholding your good. It is preparing you to receive it fully, to handle it wisely, to appreciate it deeply. When you stay calm during the winter seasons, you demonstrate trust that spring is indeed coming. This trust itself begins to shift your energy and opens the pathway for your blessings to arrive. Consider the farmer who plants seeds in autumn, then waits through the entire winter before seeing any sign of growth in spring. During those long winter months, nothing is visible above the surface. If the farmer panicked and dug up all the seeds to check if they were still viable, he would destroy them. His trust that something is happening beneath the surface, even when he cannot see it, is what allows the eventual harvest. Your dreams and desires are like those seeds planted in universal consciousness. They are germinating, growing, developing beneath the surface of your visible reality. Your calm trust is what allows this invisible process to continue uninterrupted until the moment of visible manifestation arrives. In Zen Buddhism, there is a famous saying, "Sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself." This is not an encouragement to laziness, but a pointer toward the profound truth that much of what happens in life is beyond your direct control. You do not make the grass grow. You do not force spring to arrive. These things happen according to natural law, according to the perfect timing of the universe. Your internal state of calm or anxiety does not change the fundamental process, but it radically changes your experience of the process. You can wait for spring in peaceful trust, enjoying the winter for what it offers, or you can wait in anxious misery, suffering every day that spring has not yet arrived. The spring will come at the same time either way, but your quality of life is utterly different depending on your state of consciousness. This is why the Buddhist path places such tremendous emphasis on cultivating inner peace regardless of external circumstances. When you have inner peace, you have everything. When you lack inner peace, you have nothing, regardless of your material circumstances. The merchant in Master May's garden had all the wealth in the world but was miserable because he lacked calm trust. The monks had almost no possessions, but were joyful because they had cultivated unshakable inner peace. The universe delivers to you according to your state of consciousness, not according to your desperate efforts. There is another story, this one from a monastery in ancient Japan, about a monk who was famous for his incredible good fortune. Everything seemed to work out perfectly for him. He always had what he needed exactly when he needed it. Students would marvel at his luck and ask his secret. His reply was always the same: I have no secret. I simply do not interfere with the universe's desire to care for me. When pressed to explain further, he would say, most people block their good fortune through doubt, anxiety, and forced effort. They are like someone standing under a waterfall with an umbrella, then wondering why they are not getting wet. I simply put down the umbrella of resistance and allow the blessings to flow. This metaphor of the umbrella is extraordinarily powerful. Your anxiety, your doubt, your forced effort, your lack of trust, these are all like umbrellas that you hold up against the downpour of universal blessings. The blessings are always flowing. The universe is always seeking to deliver your good to you, but you block the flow with your resistance. When you stay calm, when you trust, when you relax into faith rather than tension into fear, you put down the umbrella. You allow yourself to receive what has been trying to reach you all along. Many spiritual teachings speak about the law of attraction or the power of intention, but these are often misunderstood. People think they can force the universe to deliver specific outcomes through sheer mental effort. They create vision boards and repeat affirmations, but they do so from a place of anxiety and lack, of desperate need rather than calm expectation. This energy of desperation actually pushes away what they are trying to attract. It is like trying to catch a butterfly by chasing it frantically. The butterfly will always fly away from your frantic energy. But if you sit calmly in the garden, peaceful and still, the butterfly may land on your shoulder of its own accord. The universe responds not to your demands, but to your vibrational state. When you are calm and trusting, you vibrate at the frequency of already having what you desire. This state of consciousness is magnetic to blessings. When you are anxious and forcing, you vibrate at the frequency of lack and fear. This state of consciousness repels what you want. This is why staying calm is not just a nice spiritual practice, but actually the most practical and effective way to allow the universe to deliver your good to you. In a monastery garden where an ancient master was teaching his students the art of cultivating herbs, one eager student asked how to make the plants grow faster. The master smiled and replied, "You cannot make them grow faster. You can only provide the conditions that allow their natural growth to occur. Good soil, adequate water, proper sunlight, and then patience. The growth itself is not your doing. It is the plant's nature to grow when conditions are right. Your task is to provide conditions and then get out of the way." One student protested, "But surely we must do something." The master laughed gently. "Yes, you must do the most difficult thing of all. You must learn to do nothing when nothing is required. You must learn to trust the process. You must learn to stay calm while nature works its magic. This teaching applies to every area of your life. In your career, you provide the conditions for success through your skills, your preparation, your showing up. But the actual breakthrough, the opportunity that changes everything, comes through channels you cannot force or predict. In relationships, you make yourself available. You cultivate your own emotional health. You show up authentically. But the right person enters your life through mysterious timing that you cannot control. In your spiritual growth, you meditate, you study, you practice. But the actual awakening, the shift in consciousness, happens by grace, not by force. In all of these areas, your job is to do your part, then stay calm and trust the universe to do its part. The distinction between appropriate action and forcing is subtle but crucial. Appropriate action feels aligned, even when challenging. It arises from inner guidance rather than anxious compulsion. It is something you do because it feels right, not because you are trying to force an outcome. Forcing feels tense, desperate, exhausting. It comes from fear rather than inspiration. It is trying to make something happen through sheer willpower when the timing is not right. Learning to feel the difference between these two types of action is one of the most important skills you can develop. A Zen master once said, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." The external actions may be the same, but the internal state is radically different. Before enlightenment, you chop wood with anxiety about whether there will be enough. You carry water with worry about whether you are doing it right. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water with calm presence, trusting that you are doing exactly what needs to be done in this moment and that the universe is handling everything else. The tasks remain the same, but you are no longer suffering while doing them. This is the freedom that comes from staying calm and trusting the universe. You continue to participate fully in life. You continue to take action, to work, to create, to engage, but you are no longer in a state of chronic tension and anxiety about outcomes. You do what is yours to do with presence and peace, then release the results. This release is not indifference. It is trust. It is the recognition that there are forces at work far greater than your individual will, and that these forces are benevolent, intelligent, and utterly reliable. The universe wants to deliver your good to you even more than you want to receive it. This is a truth that most people find difficult to believe because they have been so conditioned to think they must fight for everything. But consider this. Does the oak tree fight to grow? Does the river struggle to flow? Does your heart battle to beat? No, there is an intelligence built into the fabric of existence that moves all things toward their highest expression. You are part of this existence. The same intelligence that grows the oak and flows the river and beats your heart wants to deliver to you every blessing that aligns with your highest good. Your job is to get out of your own way. Your task is to stop blocking the flow with anxiety and doubt. Your work is to cultivate the calm trust that allows you to be a clear channel for universal blessings. When you truly understand this, when you genuinely embody this truth, your entire life transforms. Not because external circumstances magically become perfect, but because your internal state becomes unshakable. And from that state of unshakable peace, you make wiser choices, you attract better opportunities, you show up more authentically, and you allow the universe to deliver blessings you could never have manufactured through forcing and controlling. Deep in the forests of ancient Burma, there was a monastery famous for a peculiar practice. Every morning, the monks would spend an hour doing what they called the practice of the empty bowl. Each monk would sit with an empty wooden bowl in their lap, simply holding it with open hands, staying completely calm and receptive. Visitors to the monastery found this practice strange and would often ask about its purpose. The abbot, a weathered old monk with eyes that sparkled with deep knowing, would explain, "We are practicing the most difficult skill in all of human life. We are learning to be empty, open, and receptive without anxiety about whether we will be filled." This practice contains a profound teaching about staying calm while trusting the universe to provide. The empty bowl represents your current state of unfulfilled desire. Perhaps you desire a meaningful relationship but are currently alone. Perhaps you long for financial abundance but currently struggle. Perhaps you seek vibrant health but currently face challenges. The natural human tendency is to panic at the emptiness, to grip the bowl with white knuckles, to run around frantically trying to fill it yourself through forced effort. But the monks understood something deeper. They knew that an open bowl can be filled by grace, while a bowl held in anxious grasping cannot receive what the universe wants to pour into it. When you hold your unfulfilled desires with the same calm openness that those monks held their empty bowls, you create the space for the universe to fill them. But when you clench your hands around your desires in desperate need, when you let anxiety consume you about the emptiness, when you exhaust yourself trying to force the filling, you actually prevent the natural flow of abundance. It is like trying to fill a cup with water while simultaneously covering the opening with your hand. The water is there, ready to flow, but your very effort to get it blocks it from entering. One of the visiting students at this monastery was a young woman named Do Sin, who came from a wealthy merchant family. Despite her material comfort, she was deeply unhappy. She wanted desperately to find inner peace, and she approached the practice of the empty bowl with the same forceful intensity she brought to everything else in her life. During the practice, while the other monks sat peacefully with open hands and calm faces, Do Sin's face was tense with concentration. Her hands gripped the bowl tightly. Her whole body radiated effort and strain. She was trying so hard to do the practice correctly that she completely missed its essence. After several weeks of watching Dorsain struggle, the abbot invited her for a private meeting. He handed her an empty bowl and asked her to hold it. She took it with her customary tight grip. Then he picked up a pitcher of water and said, "I'm going to pour water into your bowl, but you must not change how you are holding it." He began to pour. Because of her tight grip, the bowl was tilted at an angle, and most of the water splashed out onto the ground. The little that entered the bowl sloshed around violently because of the tension in her hands. "Now," said the abbot, "hold the bowl with completely relaxed hands, as if you care not whether it is filled or remains empty." Dorsain took a breath and softened her grip, her hands becoming loose and open. The abbot poured again. This time the water flowed smoothly into the bowl, filling it completely, not a drop wasted. "Do you see?" the abbot said gently. The water was the same. The bowl was the same. I was the same. The only difference was your grip. When you hold your desires with desperate tightness, most of what the universe tries to give you cannot enter. What little does enter is disturbed by your anxiety, unable to settle and nourish you. But when you hold your desires with calm openness, trusting that what is meant for you will come, everything flows to you effortlessly and fills you completely. Dorsain finally understood. Her desperate wanting had been preventing her from receiving what she wanted. This teaching illuminates one of the great paradoxes of spiritual life. The more desperately you want something, the more you block it from coming to you. The more you can want something while simultaneously being at peace without it, the more easily it flows into your experience. This is not because the universe is perverse or playing games with you. It is because desperate wanting comes from a consciousness of lack, and that consciousness perpetuates more lack. Peaceful wanting comes from a consciousness of abundance and trust, and that consciousness attracts abundance. Think about people you find attractive versus people who seem needy. When someone is desperate for your approval or attention, you naturally pull away. Their desperation is repelling. But when someone is peaceful and content in themselves, showing interest in you but not needing you, you are naturally drawn to them. Their peaceful self-sufficiency is attractive. The universe responds to your energy in the same way. Your desperate, needy, anxious energy repels what you want. Your calm, trusting, self-sufficient energy attracts it. In ancient China, there was a poor farmer who lived in a small village at the foot of a great mountain. He had heard that at the peak of this mountain there was a temple where monks possessed the secret of prosperity. Determined to learn this secret, the farmer made the arduous climb up the mountain. It took him 3 days, and he arrived exhausted and hungry at the monastery gates. He was received with kindness and given food and rest. When he had recovered, he was granted an audience with the head monk, Master Zhang. "Master," the farmer said, "I have come seeking the secret of prosperity. I work hard in my fields, yet barely survive. I have heard that you possess a secret that can change my fortune." Master Zhang smiled and said, "Indeed, I will share this secret with you. But first, you must complete a task. For the next 7 days, you will work in our monastery gardens. During this time, you must not think about prosperity, worry about money, or concern yourself with your fields at home. You must be completely present with each plant, each moment, each breath. Can you do this?" The farmer was frustrated. He had not climbed a mountain for 3 days to pull weeds in a garden. But he had come this far, so he agreed. The first day was torture. His mind raced with anxious thoughts. How were his own crops doing? Was he wasting time here? How would this gardening possibly lead to prosperity? But Master Zhang watched him carefully and would ring a bell whenever he noticed the farmer's mind drifting to worry. "Come back to this moment," the master would call out. "This weed in your hand right now. This soil beneath your feet right now. This breath right now." By the 4th day, something began to shift. The farmer found himself actually enjoying the simple work. He noticed the beauty of the plants, the richness of the soil, the pleasure of physical labor without anxiety. By the 7th day, he had completely forgotten about prosperity. He was simply present, calm, enjoying each moment. When the week ended, Master Zhang called him aside. "Now," the master said, "I will tell you the secret of prosperity. What you have experienced this week is the secret. When you work without anxiety, when you are fully present without worry about outcomes, when you trust that your efforts will be rewarded in perfect timing, you align yourself with the universe's abundance. This calm presence is the magnet that draws prosperity." Your previous poverty came not from lack of hard work, but from the anxiety that surrounded your work. That anxiety blocked the flow. The farmer returned to his village transformed. He worked his fields with the same calm presence he had discovered in the monastery garden. He did his best without attachment to specific outcomes. He stayed peaceful even when challenges arose. Within a year, his crops were more abundant than ever before, but more importantly, he was happy. He had discovered that prosperity is as much a state of consciousness as it is a material condition. When you bring calm trust to your work, to your relationships, to your entire life, you prosper not just materially, but in every dimension of well-being. This story teaches us that staying calm is not separate from receiving what you deserve. Calmness is actually the vibrational frequency that allows you to receive. When you are calm, you are open. When you are anxious, you are contracted. Openness allows in. Contraction keeps out. It is really that simple. The universe is not testing you or making you jump through hoops. It is simply responding to the energetic signals you are broadcasting. When you broadcast calm trust, you signal that you are ready to receive. When you broadcast anxious desperation, you signal that you are not ready, that you would squander or fail to appreciate what is given. In the Buddhist tradition, there is much teaching about the concept of non-attachment. This is often misunderstood to mean not caring about anything or anyone. But true non-attachment does not mean not loving or not desiring. It means holding your loves and desires with an open hand rather than a clenched fist. It means wanting what you want while simultaneously being at peace if it comes in a different form or timing than you expected. It means caring deeply while trusting completely. This is the balance point of spiritual maturity. Consider a mother watching her child learn to walk. She desires for her child to walk successfully. She cares deeply about this, but she does not grip the child in anxiety every moment, trying to force each step. She provides support, encouragement, and a safe environment. Then she steps back and allows the natural process of learning to unfold. She stays calm even when the child falls, trusting that falling is part of learning. Her calm trust actually helps the child succeed more quickly than anxious hovering would. This is non-attachment in action, caring deeply while trusting completely, desiring an outcome while staying calm about the process. You can bring this same quality of awareness to every area of your life. You can desire a thriving career while staying calm about the specific timeline and form it takes. You can long for a beautiful relationship while remaining peaceful in your current solitude. You can work toward better health while accepting your body's current state. This is not contradictory. This is wisdom. This is understanding that you can hold two truths simultaneously. I want this, and I am okay without it right now. I am working toward this, and I trust the universe's timing. There was a merchant in ancient India who wanted desperately to expand his business to a distant city. He made detailed plans, invested significant money, and pushed forward with tremendous effort. But every attempt met with obstacles. Shipments were delayed, partners backed out, permissions were denied. The merchant became increasingly frustrated and anxious, pushing harder and harder against the resistance. Finally, exhausted and on the brink of financial ruin, he gave up. He surrendered the dream and focused on simply maintaining his existing business with calm acceptance. Within 6 months of his surrender, an opportunity appeared that he never could have orchestrated. A wealthy patron from the distant city happened to visit his town, encountered his business, and was so impressed that he offered to sponsor the merchant's expansion with better terms than the merchant had ever imagined. The merchant realized that all his forcing had been working against him. The universe had a perfect plan for his expansion, but that plan required timing and connection that were not yet in place during his period of desperate pushing. When he surrendered, when he became calm and accepting, he stopped blocking the natural unfolding that the universe was orchestrating on his behalf. This does not mean you should never take action or that you should passively wait for things to fall in your lap. The merchant still had to maintain his existing business well. He still had to show up with excellence each day. His calm acceptance did not make him lazy or indifferent, but it released the desperate, anxious forcing that had been preventing the natural flow of opportunity. There is a crucial difference between inspired action and desperate action. Inspired action feels light, aligned, even joyful, even when it is challenging. Desperate action feels heavy, forced, exhausting. Learning to recognize the difference and choosing inspired action while releasing desperate action is key to allowing the universe to deliver your good. The Buddhist concept of right effort speaks to this distinction. Right effort is wholehearted but not desperate. It is focused but not obsessive. It is persistent but not rigid. It is like the steady, calm pressure of water wearing down stone. The water does not exhaust itself with anxiety about whether it will succeed. It simply continues flowing, and over time it accomplishes what force never could. Your right effort in any area of life should have this same quality. You show up consistently with full presence and engagement, but without the desperate attachment to specific outcomes or timelines. When you understand that the universe is actually conspiring in your favor, it becomes much easier to stay calm. Most people live with the underlying belief that the universe is either indifferent or actively working against them. They believe they must fight for everything because no one and nothing is helping them. This belief creates tremendous anxiety and effort. But the Buddhist understanding is radically different. The universe is not separate from you. You are an integral part of the universal whole. The same intelligence that orchestrates the seasons and guides the stars is operating in your life. This intelligence wants your highest good even more than you want it, because it knows what your highest good actually is, which you may not fully understand from your limited perspective. In a monastery nestled high in the mountains of Tibet, there lived a monk named Lobsang who had devoted himself to understanding the nature of divine timing. He had observed that in nature, everything happens in perfect rhythm. Flowers bloom at the precise moment when conditions are right. Rivers know exactly when to swell with spring melt and when to slow to winter trickle. Birds migrate with impeccable timing that they cannot have learned but must somehow sense through attunement to forces beyond their conscious knowing. Lobsang wanted to understand how human beings could live with this same attunement to perfect timing. He brought his question to his teacher, a master known for her profound wisdom about the ways of the universe. She listened to his inquiry, then led him outside to a garden where fruit trees were in various stages of growth. She pointed to an apple tree that was covered in small, green, hard apples. "Lobsang," she said, "go pick an apple from that tree and eat it." Lobsang looked at the unripe fruit and replied, "But master, these apples are not ready. They are hard and bitter. They will make me sick if I eat them now." The master smiled. "Yet you can see the apples. They clearly exist. Why not take one now? Why wait?" Lobsang understood he was being taught something important. "I wait because I know that in time these apples will ripen. The sun will continue to warm them. The tree will continue to nourish them. And in a few weeks, they will be sweet and delicious. Taking them now would be foolish when waiting will yield something so much better." The master nodded. "And how do you know this? How are you so certain the apples will ripen?" Lobsang thought about this. "I trust the process. I have seen it happen countless times. I trust the apple tree, the sun, the passage of time. I trust that nature knows what it is doing." "Exactly," the master said. "This is how you must approach your own life. Everything you desire is like these apples. The desire exists. You can see it in your mind's eye, but it may not be ripe yet. Conditions may still be developing. Timing may still be unfolding. If you anxiously grab for your desires before they are ripe, you will find them bitter and unsatisfying. But if you trust the process the way you trust these apples to ripen, if you stay calm and allow divine timing to work, you will receive your desires in their fullest, sweetest, most nourishing form. This teaching about divine timing is essential for understanding how to stay calm while trusting the universe. One of the greatest sources of human anxiety is impatience. We want what we want, and we want it now. We see the unripe apples and we grab for them, then wonder why we are disappointed with what we receive. We do not understand that timing is not arbitrary or random. Timing is part of the intelligence of the universe. Things ripen at the exact right moment, not a second before, not a second after. Your job is to tend the garden, to do what is yours to do, and then to trust the ripening process. Many of the things you most desire are being prepared for you right now in ways you cannot see. Perhaps the relationship you long for is still developing in the life of the person who will become your partner. Perhaps the opportunity you seek is still being set up by circumstances that need to align. Perhaps the healing you want is happening at a cellular level that has not yet manifested in your physical experience. If you could see the full picture the way the universe sees it, you would understand why the timing is what it is. You would see that delays are not denials, but necessary development. You would recognize that waiting periods are not punishment, effort, but preparation. There is a story about a farmer in ancient Japan who planted rice paddies each spring. One year, his neighbor noticed that the farmer was not worried, even though there had been no rain for 3 weeks, and the young rice plants were looking stressed. "Are you not concerned?" the neighbor asked. "Should we not be performing rain ceremonies or digging irrigation channels?" The farmer smiled calmly and replied, "I am not concerned. The rain will come when it comes. The rice knows how to wait. If I spend my energy in anxiety and frantic activity, I make myself miserable, but I do not make the rain come faster. So I will stay calm, do what I can to care for my fields, and trust the rain to arrive in perfect timing." The neighbor thought the farmer was foolish and spent the next week in elaborate rituals to summon rain, working himself into exhaustion. The farmer continued his normal work with calm presence. After exactly 3 weeks and 2 days, the rains came, a perfect, gentle, soaking rain that lasted for 2 days. Both farms received the same rain. The farmer's rice thrived. Interestingly, the neighbor's rice did less well because in his anxiety he had over-manipulated the soil and his stressed energy seemed to have affected his plants. But beyond the agricultural outcomes, the most significant difference was that the farmer had passed the 3 weeks in peace, while the neighbor had suffered in anxiety. They both received rain at the same moment, but one suffered in the waiting while the other remained calm. This story illuminates a profound truth. Your anxiety about timing does not change the timing. It only makes you suffer during the waiting period. The universe has its rhythms and reasons. Your desired outcome will arrive when conditions are right. Whether you spend the waiting period in peaceful trust or anxious desperation, given this reality, why not choose peace? Why not choose to trust that there is intelligence in the timing? Why not use the waiting period to develop yourself, to enjoy the present moment, to deepen your faith rather than to suffer needlessly? In Buddhism, there is much teaching about the present moment as the only reality. The past is gone. It exists only as memory. The future has not yet arrived. It exists only as imagination. The only thing that actually exists is this present moment. When you are anxious about the future, about when your good will arrive, you are not living in reality. You are living in imagination, in a future that does not yet exist. This imaginative dwelling in the future robs you of the only life you actually have, which is happening right now. When you bring your attention back to this present moment and ask yourself if you are okay right now, the answer is almost always yes. Right now you are breathing. Right now you have life. Right now, in this actual moment, there may be challenges, but there is also always something to appreciate. When you root yourself in the present moment and stay calm within it, you stop suffering about imaginary futures. You stop torturing yourself with questions about when and how and what if. You simply are here, now, at peace with what is. This does not mean you have no goals or desires for the future. It means you hold those desires lightly while fully inhabiting your present reality. It means you trust that the future will unfold perfectly and that your job right now is to be present with what is right in front of you. When you live this way, you often discover that opportunities and blessings show up more quickly because you are present enough to notice and receive them when they appear. There was a student of meditation who came to her teacher in frustration. "I have been meditating for 3 years," she said, "and I still have not achieved enlightenment. How much longer will this take?" The teacher replied with a question, "Why do you meditate?" The student thought for a moment and said, "To achieve enlightenment." The teacher shook his head. "Then you are missing the entire point. Meditation is not a means to a future end. Meditation is being fully present right now. Enlightenment is not something you will achieve in the future. It is recognizing the truth of this present moment. When you meditate to get somewhere, you are not actually meditating. You are reinforcing the illusion that you are not already where you need to be." The student was confused, so the teacher continued, "Right now, you are alive. Right now, you are breathing. Right now, you are awareness itself experiencing a moment of existence. This is already miraculous, already complete, already enlightenment if you would only recognize it. But you are so focused on some imaginary future achievement that you are missing the perfection of what is actually here. Stop trying to get somewhere. Simply be where you are with full presence and calm acceptance. This is the entire path. This teaching applies to every area of life. You are already where you need to be. The circumstances you are in right now are not mistakes or delays on the way to your real life. This is your real life happening right now. When you can stay calm within your current reality while still holding intentions for the future, you have found the balance point. You are neither rejecting where you are nor clinging to where you want to be. You are simply present, trusting that the river of your life is flowing toward your highest good and that you are exactly where you are supposed to be in the journey. The universe delivers what you deserve, but you must understand what deserve really means. Many people have distorted ideas about deservingness. They think they must earn their good through suffering, or that they are inherently unworthy and must prove themselves. These beliefs are not spiritual truths, but wounds from past experiences and cultural conditioning. The spiritual truth is that you are inherently worthy of love, joy, abundance, and fulfillment simply because you exist. You are an expression of the divine. How could such a being be unworthy? However, deserve also has to do with vibrational alignment. You can only receive what you are vibrationally aligned with. If you carry deep beliefs about your unworthiness, if you are steeped in anxiety and fear, if you expect disappointment and lack, you are not aligned with receiving abundance. This is not because you are being punished, but because you are not vibrationally open to receive. It is like setting your radio to 90.5 FM and being confused about why you are not receiving the broadcast on 101.3 FM. You must tune your frequency to match what you wish to receive. Staying calm, trusting the universe, releasing anxiety and control, these practices tune your frequency to match the frequency of your desires. When you are calm, you broadcast trust, openness, and receptivity. The universe responds to this broadcast by delivering opportunities, people, and circumstances that match this frequency. When you are anxious and forcing, you broadcast fear, lack, and desperation. The universe responds with more reasons to feel fearful and lacking, not as punishment, but simply as a mirror of your state of being. In a monastery in ancient Vietnam, there was a practice of sitting in meditation before a still pond. The monks understood that the mind is like this pond. When the pond is disturbed by wind, the surface becomes choppy with waves, and you cannot see through to the depths. But when the wind calms and the surface becomes perfectly still, you can see clearly all the way to the bottom. The monks practiced calming their minds the way they would wait for the pond to become still. They did not try to force the waves to stop. They simply sat quietly, and the waves naturally subsided as the wind of their agitation settled. Your mind works the same way. When you are agitated with anxiety, worry, and forced effort, your mind is like the choppy pond. You cannot see clearly. You cannot receive intuitive guidance. You cannot recognize opportunities when they appear. But when you cultivate calm, when you trust and relax, your mind naturally settles like the pond becoming still. In this stillness, you can see clearly. You can hear the quiet voice of intuition. You can recognize the synchronicities and opportunities that the universe is presenting. You can receive the guidance that has been available all along but was obscured by the choppy surface of your anxiety. This is why all spiritual traditions emphasize practices that cultivate inner stillness. Prayer, meditation, contemplation, mindful breathing, all of these are methods for calming the pond of your mind. When the mind is calm, you naturally align with universal flow. You naturally trust because you can sense the intelligence that is orchestrating events. You naturally let go of control because you recognize a greater intelligence at work. You naturally stay peaceful because you know you are held and guided. One of the beautiful paradoxes of the spiritual path is that trying to force calm makes you more agitated. Calm cannot be achieved through effort. It arises naturally when you stop creating agitation. It is like a snow globe. When you shake it, the snow swirls in chaos. You cannot force the snow to settle. You can only stop shaking the globe and allow the natural process of settling to occur. Your mind is the same. When you stop creating agitation through worry, control, and resistance, calm naturally arises. This is your true nature. Agitation is what you create through thought patterns. Peace is what remains when you stop creating agitation. The practice then is not to create peace, but to notice when you are creating agitation and to gently stop. When you notice yourself worrying about the future, you can take a breath and return to the present moment. When you notice yourself trying to control outcomes, you can remind yourself that there is a larger intelligence at work and consciously relax your grip. When you notice yourself in resistance to what is, you can practice acceptance. These small shifts, practiced consistently, gradually retrain your nervous system to default to calm rather than anxiety. In a remote monastery in the mountains of Nepal, there was an ancient ritual performed every evening at sunset. All the monks would gather in the courtyard, and the eldest master would ring a large bronze bell 7 times. After each ring, the monks would remain in complete silence, listening to the sound fade into the vast mountain silence. This practice was called listening to the space between sounds, and it was considered one of the most advanced teachings in the monastery. Visitors who witnessed this ritual often asked about its meaning, and the master would explain, "We are practicing hearing what is always present but usually unnoticed. Between the sounds is silence. Between thoughts is awareness. Between moments of activity is peace." Most people spend their entire lives focused on the sounds, the thoughts, the activity. They never discover the infinite silence, awareness, and peace that is always here, holding everything. This teaching points to something crucial about staying calm while trusting the universe. There is a dimension of your being that is already perfectly calm, already completely trusting, already aligned with universal flow. But this dimension is hidden beneath the noise of your thinking mind, your anxious emotions, your constant activity. Your practice is not to create this calm, but to recognize it, to tune into it, to rest in it. It has been here all along. You have simply been too distracted by the noise to notice it. Think of consciousness like the sky. Thoughts and emotions are like clouds passing through. Sometimes the clouds are dark storm clouds. Sometimes they are pleasant white puffs. Sometimes they cover the entire sky. But the sky itself remains unchanged by whatever weather passes through it. The sky does not become a storm cloud. It remains spacious, vast, and serene while the storm passes through. You are like the sky. Your essential nature is like the spaciousness and serenity of the sky itself. All your anxious thoughts and emotions are just weather patterns passing through. They feel overwhelming when you identify with them, when you think you are the storm. But when you recognize yourself as the sky, as the unchanging awareness in which all thoughts and emotions arise and pass away, you discover a calm that cannot be disturbed by any life circumstance. The practice of meditation in the Buddhist tradition is fundamentally about learning to rest as the sky rather than identifying with the weather. You sit quietly and thoughts arise. Instead of following them or fighting them, you simply notice them the way you would notice clouds passing overhead. Oh, there is a worry thought, there is a planning thought, there is a fantasy thought. You note them with gentle awareness, and you let them pass without attaching to them. In this practice, you gradually discover that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. This discovery is revolutionary because once you know yourself as awareness rather than as the contents of awareness, you are unshakable. There was a young monk named Tashi who struggled tremendously with anxiety. His mind was constantly racing with worries. He worried about his meditation practice, about his relationships with other monks, about his ability to understand the teachings, about his future. His teacher observed his suffering with compassion and decided to give him a special practice. He gave Tashi a smooth stone and instructed him to carry it with him at all times. "Whenever you notice yourself caught in anxious thinking," the teacher said, "I want you to hold this stone in your hand and ask yourself, who is aware of this anxiety? Then wait in silence for the answer to arise from within." Tashi followed the instruction faithfully. The first time he tried it, he was caught in a spiral of worry about whether he was meditating correctly. He remembered the practice, pulled out the stone and asked, "Who is aware of this anxiety?" As he waited in silence, something shifted. He realized that there was a part of him that was watching the anxiety, that was aware of the worried thoughts but was not itself anxious. This awareness was calm and still, like a peaceful witness observing the storm of thoughts without being disturbed by them. For a moment, Tashi rested in this awareness, and the anxiety lost its grip on him. He continued this practice for months, and gradually something transformed. He realized that he could at any moment shift his identity from the anxious thoughts to the calm awareness that observed the thoughts. He did not have to stop having anxious thoughts. He simply no longer believed that he was those thoughts. He was the sky, and anxiety was just weather passing through. This shift gave him a foundation of peace that remained steady regardless of what his mind was doing. He had discovered the calm that the universe was always offering him, that had been within him all along, hidden beneath his identification with his thinking mind. This practice is available to you in this very moment. Right now, as you receive these words, there are thoughts arising in your mind. Perhaps thoughts about whether this teaching is useful, thoughts about your own life situation, thoughts about what you need to do later. Notice that you are aware of these thoughts. What is this awareness? Can you locate it? Can you touch it? No, because you are it. You are the awareness itself, and if you rest as this awareness for even a moment, you will notice that it is inherently peaceful. It is not anxious about anything. It simply is spacious and calm, like the sky. The universe communicates with you through this calm awareness. When you are identified with anxious thinking, you cannot hear the subtle guidance that is always available. But when you rest as calm awareness, you begin to notice synchronicities, intuitions, gentle nudges in certain directions. The universe is always speaking, always guiding, always delivering what you need. But you must be calm and present enough to receive the communication. Anxiety is like static on the radio. It does not stop the broadcast. It just makes it impossible to hear clearly. In ancient China, there was a practice called the Way of Water. Practitioners would spend hours simply observing water in various forms: rivers, rain, still ponds, waterfalls, learning the lessons water had to teach about how to live. Water became the supreme teacher of Wu Wei, of effortless action in harmony with natural flow. Water never struggles or forces. It always takes the path of least resistance. It goes around obstacles rather than fighting them. It is soft and yielding, yet over time it can wear down the hardest stone. It naturally flows downward, pulled by gravity, requiring no effort to reach its destination. The master teachers of this tradition would tell their students, "Be like water in your life. When you encounter an obstacle, do not exhaust yourself pushing against it. Find the way around. Stay soft and flexible, not rigid and forceful. Trust the natural pull of your life the way water trusts gravity. Let yourself flow naturally rather than forcing a particular path. And remember that water's power comes not from aggression, but from gentle, persistent, patient presence." This teaching is especially relevant for understanding how to stay calm while trusting the universe. When you encounter obstacles, delays, or closed doors, you have two choices. You can be like someone pushing desperately against a locked door, exhausting yourself in forced effort, anxiety about why it will not open, resistance to the fact that it is closed. Or you can be like water, calmly flowing around the obstacle, trusting that if this door is closed, there is a reason and there is another path. The waterway requires tremendous trust and calm. It requires releasing your attachment to the specific how and when of your desires manifesting. It requires believing that the universe knows what it is doing, even when the path is not what you expected. Many times in life, what appears to be an obstacle is actually protection or redirection. The door that does not open is saving you from a path that would not have served your highest good. The relationship that ends is freeing you for one that is more aligned. The job you do not get is keeping you available for a better opportunity, but you can only see this with hindsight, and even then, not always. The universe sees the full picture. It knows things you do not know. When you trust this and stay calm in the face of closed doors, you allow yourself to be redirected toward better paths. There was a merchant in ancient Persia who planned a trading expedition to a distant city. He had invested everything he had in the goods he would transport and sell. The night before he was to depart, his camel became ill and could not travel. The merchant was devastated. All his plans were ruined. He could not understand why the universe would block his path after he had worked so hard to organize this venture. Angry and disappointed, he stayed home while the caravan departed without him. 3 days later, news reached the village that the caravan had been ambushed by bandits. Several merchants were killed and all goods were stolen. The merchant stood in shock, realizing that his sick camel had saved his life. What he had perceived as a terrible obstacle was actually divine protection. From that day forward, whenever his plans were blocked or delayed, he would remember the sick camel. He learned to trust that obstacles might be blessings in disguise, that delays might be divine protection, that closed doors might be the universe's way of steering him toward better paths. This is the awareness that allows you to stay calm when things do not go according to your plan. You remember that your plan is based on limited information and limited perspective. The universe's plan is based on infinite information and perfect perspective. When there is a mismatch between your plan and the universe's plan, it is far wiser to trust the universe. This does not mean you should not make plans or take action. It means you should hold your plans lightly, staying flexible and open to redirection, trusting that if your plan is blocked, something better is being orchestrated. In Zen monasteries, there is a teaching position called the Master of the Unexpected. This monk's job is to introduce random changes to the daily schedule, to move things around, to create situations that require the other monks to be flexible and adaptable. This might seem cruel, but it is actually profound training. Life does not follow our schedules. It does not conform to our expectations. If we can only be peaceful when everything goes according to our plan, we will spend most of our lives in anxiety and frustration. But if we can stay calm and even find humor in the unexpected, if we can trust that changes are part of a larger intelligence at work, we become unshakable. One of the monks who trained under a particularly mischievous master of the unexpected later said, "At first, I resented every change, every unexpected twist. I wanted routine and predictability, but gradually, I began to see that the unexpected was teaching me something essential. It was teaching me that peace cannot depend on circumstances. Peace must come from within, from a deep trust that whatever arises is workable, is perhaps even perfect in some way I cannot yet see." Now, years later, I am grateful for that training. Life continues to be unpredictable, but I no longer suffer from this. I have learned to dance with uncertainty, to stay calm in the midst of change, to trust the choreography of the universe even when I do not understand the steps. This is the fruit of spiritual practice, not a life free of challenges or changes, but an unshakable inner peace that remains steady regardless of what life brings. This peace is what allows you to trust the universe. When you are constantly thrown off balance by changes and unexpected events, it is hard to trust. You feel unsafe, unprotected. But when you develop the capacity to remain calm and centered no matter what arises, you begin to sense the intelligence in everything. You start to recognize patterns of perfect timing and divine orchestration. You see how things work out, often in ways better than you could have planned. This recognition deepens your trust, which deepens your calm, which deepens your receptivity to universal blessings. It becomes a beautiful upward spiral. On a remote island off the coast of ancient Japan, there was a fishing village where an old woman lived alone in a small hut at the edge of the forest. She was known throughout the region for her mysterious ability to predict the weather with perfect accuracy. Fishermen would consult her before embarking on voyages, and she was never wrong about whether the seas would be calm or stormy. Many people believed she had supernatural powers or that the spirits spoke to her. But when a visiting monk asked her about her gift, she laughed warmly and said, "I have no special powers. I simply pay attention to what is already here." Most people are so lost in their thoughts about the future that they miss all the signs the present moment is offering. I have learned to be completely present and calm, and in this state, reality shows me what I need to know. The monk was intrigued and asked if she would teach him. She agreed, and for 3 months he lived in the village learning from her. She did not teach him any special techniques or secret knowledge. Instead, she taught him the art of exquisite presence. They would walk along the beach, and she would point out subtle changes in the wind, in the colour and movement of the clouds, in the behaviour of birds and sea creatures. "The universe is always communicating," she would say, "but you must be calm enough to listen. When your mind is noisy with plans and worries, you miss the conversation." One day, the monk asked her, "How did you develop this quality of calm attention?" She sat down on a large rock overlooking the sea and gestured for him to sit beside her. "When I was young," she said, "I was like most people, always worried about the future, always trying to control what would happen next. I exhausted myself with this constant mental activity. Then I lost my husband and my son to the sea during a storm. My grief was so overwhelming that my mind simply stopped its usual chatter. In the silence of that grief, I began to notice things I had never noticed before. I heard the whisper of the wind changing direction. I saw the subtle shift in light that meant a storm was coming. I realized that if I had been paying attention, I might have warned my husband not to go out that day." She paused, looking out at the water with soft eyes. "At first, this realization made my grief even worse. But gradually, I understood something important. The universe had been trying to communicate with me all along, but I had been too distracted to listen. I made a vow that I would never again miss what the present moment was trying to tell me. I practiced becoming completely present and calm, and as I did, I discovered that the universe is incredibly generous with its guidance. It is always showing us what we need to know, always delivering what we need precisely when we need it, but we must be present to receive it. This story illuminates a crucial aspect of trusting the universe. The universe is not silent or distant. It is constantly communicating through what some call synchronicity, intuition, signs, or simple present moment awareness. But this communication is subtle. It cannot be heard over the noise of an anxious, distracted mind. When you stay calm and present, you begin to notice this communication. You see the synchronicities, you feel the intuitive nudges, you recognize the perfect timing of events. This recognition naturally deepens your trust because you are experiencing firsthand that you are being guided and supported. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a practice called mindfulness of the present moment. This is sometimes misunderstood as a technique for stress reduction or improved focus. While it offers these benefits, its deeper purpose is spiritual. When you are fully present in this moment, when your attention is completely here rather than scattered across past and future, you align yourself with reality itself. Reality exists only in the present moment. The past is gone. The future has not yet arrived. When you are fully present, you are fully real, fully alive, fully connected to the intelligence that is orchestrating all of existence. Think about a time when you were completely absorbed in something, perhaps creating art, playing with a child, watching a sunset, or in intimate conversation with someone you love. In these moments of complete presence, there is no anxiety about the future, no rumination about the past. There is just this moment, vivid and alive. And in these moments, do you not feel a sense of deep okayness? Even if your life has challenges, in the moment of complete presence, there is peace. This peace is always available because the present moment is always available. Your practice is to return to it again and again, especially when anxiety about the future threatens to overwhelm you. There was a student who complained to his meditation teacher that he could not stay present. "My mind constantly wanders to the future," he said. "I worry about money, about my relationships, about whether I am on the right path. How can I stop this?" The teacher replied, "You cannot stop thoughts from arising. This is the nature of mind. But you can notice when you have wandered into the future and gently return to the present moment. It is like training a puppy. The puppy wanders away. You do not punish it. You gently guide it back. Again and again, with patience and kindness, you guide it back. Eventually, the puppy learns to stay close. Your mind is the same." The student practiced this instruction faithfully, and over time, something transformed. He noticed that the worries about the future had not stopped arising, but they no longer had the same power over him. When a worry arose, he would notice it, say to himself, there is a worry about the future, and then gently return his attention to whatever he was actually doing in the present moment. The worry would lose its energy and fade away, because worries only maintain their intensity when you feed them with continued attention. When you acknowledge them but do not engage with them, they pass through like clouds. This practice is one of the most powerful tools for staying calm while trusting the universe. When you notice yourself in anxiety about the future, you can pause and ask, what is actually happening right now in this present moment? Almost always, you will discover that right now, you are okay. Right now, you are breathing. Right now, there may be challenges, but there is also always something stable, something to appreciate, something that is working. When you anchor yourself in this present moment reality, rather than in imaginary future scenarios, you naturally become calmer. And from this calm, you can access the trust that allows the universe to work its magic in your life. The universe operates in present time. It is not in the past or the future. It is right here, right now, creating this moment. When you are fully present in this moment, you are synchronized with the creative power of the universe. You are in the only place where inspiration can strike, where intuition can be heard, where opportunities can be recognized and seized. When you are lost in anxiety about the future, you are out of sync with the universe. You are not where the action is. You are in a mental realm that does not actually exist, and from there, you have no power. In ancient texts of Buddhist philosophy, there is a teaching that says, the present moment is the meeting place between human human and divine. This poetic phrase contains profound truth. The divine, the universal intelligence, can only meet you here, now. It cannot meet you in your mental projections about the future because those projections are not real. They are fantasies, some fearful and some hopeful, but none of them exist. The only reality is what is actually here, and that is where the universe is waiting to connect with you, guide you, and deliver your good to you. There was a merchant who was travelling to a distant city to conclude a business deal that he hoped would make his fortune. He was so focused on the future outcome that he barely noticed the journey. His mind was consumed with plans, with imagining how he would spend the money, with worrying about whether the deal would go through. On the road, he passed a beggar who asked for help. The merchant, lost in his future fantasies, did not even see the beggar. He passed a beautiful grove of flowering trees without noticing. He missed the concern on his travelling companion's face when the companion tried to warn him about dangerous terrain ahead. Because he was not present, the merchant missed the warning and led his party down a dangerous path where they were robbed. He lost everything he was carrying. Devastated and defeated, he eventually made his way back home. Years later, he heard a remarkable story. The beggar he had passed on the road was actually a wealthy patron in disguise who was testing travellers to find someone worthy of a major business investment. The merchant he had been travelling with had been trying to warn him about the bandits and to suggest a safer route, and the grove of trees he had passed without noticing was sacred to the local people, and had he stopped to appreciate it, he would have met the village elder who was looking for a business partner. The merchant realized that in his anxious focus on one imagined future, he had missed 3 separate opportunities that the universe had placed directly in his path. I was so busy trying to force one outcome, he reflected, that I was blind to the gifts being offered. I thought I had to make my fortune happen through that one specific deal. But the universe was trying to deliver my fortune to me in multiple ways that day. I was just too distracted to receive any of them. This story is a cautionary tale about the cost of not being present. The universe is generous and creative. It is always finding ways to deliver what you need, but you must be present to receive the delivery. When you are lost in anxious thoughts about the future, you miss the synchronistic conversation, the intuitive hit, the unexpected opportunity, the warning sign. You miss the very guidance and support you are longing for because you are not actually here to receive it. Staying calm is intimately related to staying present. When you are truly present in this moment, there is usually nothing to be anxious about. Anxiety lives in the future. It is worry about what might happen, fear about how things might go wrong, desperation about whether you will get what you want. But none of these fears exist in present moment reality. Right now, in this actual moment, you are okay. When you return to this truth again and again, you cultivate calm. And from this calm presence, you naturally trust the universe more because you are actually connected to it rather than lost in mental projections. There is a meditation practice from the Zen tradition called just sitting. You sit in meditation posture, but you are not trying to achieve any particular state. You are not concentrating on anything specific. You are not even really doing anything. You are simply sitting, completely present, aware and receptive. Thoughts arise and you let them pass. Sensations arise and you let them pass. You are not grasping onto anything or pushing anything away. You are just being present with whatever is, with complete acceptance and calm. This practice is profound because it trains you in the art of being rather than doing. So much of human anxiety comes from the belief that you must constantly be doing something to make your life work. You must be achieving, producing, controlling, managing, forcing. But what if the deepest truth is that life works better when you master the balance between doing and being, when you know when to act and when to simply be present, trusting the larger intelligence that is always at work. In your daily life, you can bring this quality of just sitting to any activity. You can wash dishes with complete presence, not thinking about what you will do next, but fully engaged with the sensation of warm water, the gleam of a clean plate, the simple satisfaction of this small task. You can walk down the street with complete awareness of each step, each breath, each sight and sound around you, rather than being lost in thought. You can listen to another person with full attention, truly hearing them rather than planning what you will say next. This quality of presence transforms everything. It makes ordinary moments extraordinary. It connects you with the aliveness that is always here but usually overlooked, and it keeps you in the only place where the universe can actually reach you with its guidance and blessings. In the monasteries of ancient Korea, There was a tradition of maintaining silence during certain periods of the year. For 3 months each winter, the monks would observe complete verbal silence, communicating only when absolutely necessary, and then only in writing or simple gestures. During this silent period, a remarkable transformation would occur in the monastery's atmosphere. Visitors who arrived during the silence period would comment on the palpable sense of peace, the feeling that the very walls were saturated with a deep, nurturing quiet. The monks who practiced these silence retreats year after year developed a quality of presence that remained with them even after the silence period ended, a centeredness that seemed unshakable by external circumstances. The abbot of one such monastery explained the practice to a visiting scholar. In silence, we discover how much of our life energy is spent in unnecessary words. We talk to fill space, to ease our anxiety, to avoid being present with what is actually here. When we enter silence, we are forced to meet ourselves and reality without this buffer. At first, it is uncomfortable. The mind becomes very loud when the mouth is silent. But gradually, if we stay with the practice, we discover something extraordinary. There is a dimension of being that is always present beneath our mental and verbal chatter. This dimension is inherently peaceful, inherently trusting, inherently connected to everything. When we touch this dimension, we no longer need the universe to deliver anything because we discover we are already whole, already complete, already held by something far greater than ourselves. This teaching points to something profound about the relationship between inner silence and trust in the universe. When your mind is constantly churning with thoughts, plans, worries, and mental commentary, it is very difficult to feel the support of the universe. You feel separate, alone, on your own. But when you cultivate inner silence through meditation or contemplative practice, you begin to sense that you are held within something vast and benevolent. You are not a separate self struggling alone in an indifferent universe. You are an integral part of a living, intelligent whole that is always supporting your existence and your evolution. There was a young monk named Jiwoo who entered the monastery with tremendous anxiety about whether she had made the right choice. She had given up a promising career and disappointed her family by choosing monastic life, and she was plagued by doubts. During her first winter silence retreat, these doubts became almost unbearably loud in her mind. Without the distraction of conversation and social interaction, her mind seemed to scream at her with questions and fears. Am I wasting my life? Have I made a terrible mistake? How will I survive if I cannot handle this path? The thoughts were relentless. Her teacher observed her struggle and took her aside during the one day each week when speaking was permitted. You are fighting your thoughts, the teacher said gently. This is why you suffer so much. Stop fighting. Let the thoughts be as loud as they want. You simply rest as the silence that hears the thoughts. You are not the thoughts. You are the vast, peaceful silence in which the thoughts arise and disappear. Rest there, and the thoughts will eventually exhaust themselves. Jiwoo did not fully understand, but she trusted the teacher and tried this approach. Instead of trying to quiet her anxious thoughts, she allowed them to be there while she rested her attention on the silence beneath them. At first, she could barely perceive this silence because the thoughts were so loud, but as she kept returning her attention to the silence, kept resting as the awareness that was aware of the thoughts, something shifted. The thoughts continued, but they became more like background noise. The silence became more prominent, more real, more substantial than the thoughts. And this silence was deeply peaceful. By the end of the 3-month retreat, Jiwoo had discovered something life-changing. She realized that her essential nature was this peaceful silence, not the anxious thoughts that arose within it. The thoughts still came, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of worry, but they no longer defined her experience. She rested as peaceful awareness, and from this place, she could see that her life was unfolding perfectly, that she was exactly where she needed to be, that the universe was supporting her journey even when her thinking mind could not understand how. This direct experience of being held and supported by something greater than herself dissolved her anxiety about having made the wrong choice. She knew, not through logic, but through direct experience, that she was on the right path. This distinction between thoughts and the awareness of thoughts is crucial for understanding how to stay calm while trusting the universe. Your anxious thoughts are not truth. They are just thoughts, mental events that arise and pass away like everything else. When you believe these thoughts, when you identify with them, they create suffering. But when you recognize yourself as the awareness in which these thoughts appear, you are free from their grip. The thoughts can continue to arise, but they no longer control your state of being. Imagine the mind like a clear sky. Thoughts are like clouds passing through. Some clouds are white and pleasant, happy thoughts, optimistic thoughts. Some clouds are dark and threatening, worried thoughts, fearful thoughts. But the sky is not affected by the clouds. The sky remains clear, spacious, and serene regardless of what weather passes through it. When you learn to identify with the sky rather than with the clouds, you become unshakable. Worry thoughts can arise, but they do not make you worried because you know you are the sky, not the weather. This realization comes through practice. You cannot understand it merely intellectually. You must experience it directly through meditation or contemplative practice. When you sit in silence and simply observe your thoughts without engaging with them, you gradually discover the dimension of yourself that is prior to thought, that exists whether you are thinking or not, that is always peaceful because it is not dependent on mental content. This discovery is liberation. It is the foundation of unshakable trust because when you know yourself as this peaceful awareness, you recognize that at the deepest level, you are already okay and always will be, regardless of what happens in the surface level of life circumstances. In the Buddhist tradition, this peaceful awareness is sometimes called Buddha nature or true nature. It is the essence of who you are beneath all conditioning, beneath all the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what your life means. When you touch this essence, you understand experientially that you are not separate from the universe. You are not a tiny individual struggling against vast impersonal forces. You are an expression of the universe itself, temporary form taken by the eternal consciousness that is the ground of all being. When you know this, truly know it through direct experience rather than just as an interesting idea, trust arises naturally. How can you not trust the universe when you know you are the universe? There is a story of a wave in the ocean who lived in constant fear. The wave was afraid of crashing on the shore and disappearing. It wanted to preserve itself, to last forever, to avoid the inevitable dissolution. This fear made the wave's existence miserable. Every moment was filled with dread about the approaching shore. One day, an older, wise wave flowing beside the fearful wave said, "Why do you suffer so?" The fearful wave replied, "Because I am going to crash on the shore and disappear. I will cease to exist." The wise wave laughed gently and said, "You have misunderstood what you are. You are not just a wave, you are water. Yes, this particular waveform will crash on the shore, but the water that you are will not disappear. It will return to the ocean, which it never actually left. You are the ocean expressing yourself as a wave for a brief moment. When you know this, there is nothing to fear." This story is a perfect metaphor for your relationship with the universe. You are not separate from it. You are a temporary form taken by eternal consciousness. Your individual life is like a wave on the ocean of universal consciousness. Yes, this particular form will eventually dissolve, but you, in your essence, are the ocean itself. You cannot be destroyed or lost because you are not separate from the eternal. When you know this, not just intellectually but experientially, trust becomes natural. You stop trying to preserve and protect your small, separate self because you know you are not actually separate. The practice of meditation helps you discover this truth. When you sit in silence and look for the self you think you are, you cannot find it. You find thoughts, but you are not the thoughts. You find sensations, but you are not the sensations. You find emotions, but you are not the emotions. What you are is the awareness in which all these experiences arise. And this awareness has no boundaries, no beginning, no end. It is not separate from the awareness that is experiencing life through every other being. At the deepest level, there is only one consciousness, one awareness, experiencing itself through infinite forms. When you touch this truth, you recognize that you are held and supported by the very fabric of existence itself. This recognition transforms your relationship with uncertainty and the unknown. When you believe you are a separate self trying to survive in a potentially hostile universe, uncertainty is terrifying. You need to control and predict everything because you feel vulnerable and alone. But when you know you are an expression of the universe itself, uncertainty becomes an adventure. You trust that whatever arises is part of your journey, part of how the universe is experiencing itself through your particular form. You do not need to know what will happen next because you trust the intelligence that is orchestrating everything. In a monastery in ancient Thailand, there was a practice of blindfold walking. Monks would tie blindfolds over their eyes and walk slowly through the monastery grounds, fully trusting that they would not come to harm. This was considered an advanced practice in trust. The point was not to develop supernatural powers of navigation, but to learn how to move through uncertainty with calm trust rather than anxious control. Monks who practiced this regularly reported that it transformed their relationship with all uncertainty. They learned to move through life with a quality of open receptivity rather than tight control, trusting that they would be guided and protected even when they could not see the path ahead. This is a powerful metaphor for life itself. None of us can actually see the path ahead. We think we can because we make plans and predictions, but life is fundamentally uncertain. Anything could happen at any moment. For most people, this uncertainty creates baseline anxiety that colors everything. But it does not have to be this way. When you cultivate deep trust in the universe, when you know through direct experience that you are held and supported by a benevolent intelligence, uncertainty becomes acceptable. You can move forward even when you cannot see the path clearly because you trust that you will be guided step by step. A student once asked a master, "How can I trust the universe when so many bad things happen in the world? There is suffering, injustice, tragedy. How can I trust that the universe is benevolent?" The master replied, "You are looking at a tiny piece of an infinite tapestry and judging the whole based on that piece. From your limited perspective, you cannot see the larger patterns, the deeper purposes, the ultimate destination toward which all things are moving. What appears to be random suffering from your viewpoint may be essential to the soul's evolution from a larger perspective. What seems like injustice may be the working out of causes and conditions you cannot perceive. Trust is not about having proof that everything is good. Trust is about recognizing that your perspective is limited and choosing to have faith in an intelligence greater than your understanding. This teaching does not mean you should be passive in the face of suffering or injustice. Compassionate action is always appropriate, but the action is most effective when it comes from trust rather than from fear and despair. When you trust that the universe is ultimately benevolent and intelligent, you can work to alleviate suffering without being crushed by despair about the existence of suffering. You can fight injustice without losing faith in humanity. You can face difficulty without concluding that life is meaningless or that you are abandoned. You maintain your center, your calm, your trust, even as you engage fully with the challenges of existence. In the high mountain passes of Tibet, there existed a small hermitage where a single monk lived in solitude for decades. The monk, whose name was Pema, had chosen this remote life not out of rejection of the world, but out of a deep desire to understand the nature of trust. Before retreating to the mountains, Pema had lived an ordinary life filled with the usual anxieties about money, relationships, reputation, and security. One day, after a particularly stressful period, Pema realized that all his suffering came from a single source, the belief that he had to control everything himself, that the universe would not provide, that he was fundamentally on his own in an indifferent cosmos. This belief was so painful and exhausting that Pema decided to test it directly by removing all normal sources of security and seeing if the universe would indeed provide. In the hermitage, Pema lived with almost nothing. There was no regular supply of food, no source of income, no support network. Pema would meditate, practice, and trust that each day's needs would be met, and remarkably, they always were. Sometimes a traveller would pass by and leave offerings of food. Sometimes villagers from the valley below would make the difficult climb to bring supplies to the hermit they considered holy. Sometimes Pema would find edible plants growing near the hermitage. It was never luxurious, but it was always enough. Over years of living this way, Pema developed an unshakable trust in the universe's provision. After 20 years in the mountains, Pema received a visit from a young seeker who asked, "How can you live this way without fear? What if no food comes? What if you freeze in winter? How do you stay calm in such uncertainty?" Pema smiled and replied, "I stay calm because I have proven through direct experience that the universe provides. Not because I deserve it or have earned it, but because providing is the nature of the universe. Look at the birds. They do not plant crops or build storehouses, yet they are fed. Look at the flowers. They do not spin cloth or save for winter, yet they are clothed in beauty. The universe takes care of its creations. My hermitage is simply a laboratory where I have proven this truth through experiment." The young seeker was not satisfied. "But surely you must sometimes worry. Surely there are times when you doubt?" Pema nodded. "Oh yes, especially in the beginning. The mind has been trained in fear for so long that it does not easily accept a new paradigm. But I learned something important. I learned to distinguish between the thoughts of fear and the reality beneath the thoughts. Fear would say, "You might starve." But the reality was that in this present moment, I was not starving. Fear would say, "Winter will be unbearable." But when winter actually came, I had what I needed to survive it. Fear lives in imaginary futures. Reality lives in the present moment. When I stayed rooted in present moment reality, rather than in fearful fantasies about the future, I could see clearly that I was being provided for. This seeing, repeated day after day, year after year, eventually dissolved the fear. This teaching illustrates a profound truth about trust and the universe. Trust is not built through philosophical reasoning or by forcing yourself to believe something. Trust is built through direct experience. When you take small steps of trust and find that you are supported, your trust grows. When you let go of a little control and discover that things work out, you become willing to let go of more control. Trust is like a muscle that strengthens with use. Every time you choose trust over anxiety, every time you choose flow over force, every time you choose present moment awareness over future-based fear, your trust muscle becomes stronger. You do not need to retreat to a mountain hermitage to develop this trust. You can practice it in the midst of your ordinary life. You can practice it in small ways. When anxiety about the future arises, you can pause and ask yourself, right now, in this actual moment, am I okay? Almost always, the answer will be yes. You can notice this again and again, training yourself to distinguish between the fear-based stories your mind tells about the future and the actual reality of the present moment. This practice, repeated consistently, gradually shifts your default setting from fear to trust. There was a farmer in ancient India who worried constantly about the monsoon rains. Would they come on time? Would there be too much rain or too little? His anxiety about the weather consumed his mental energy and made his life miserable. One year, a traveling monk stopped at his farm and observed the farmer's distress. "My friend," the monk said, "you are suffering unnecessarily. The rain will come when it comes. Your worry does not influence it one bit. All your worry accomplishes is to make you miserable during the waiting." The farmer protested, "But if I do not worry about the rain, I might not be prepared. My worry keeps me vigilant, keeps me planning." The monk smiled. "Tell me, is there a difference between concerned preparation and anxious worry?" The farmer thought about this. "Well, preparation is taking action. Worry is just thinking about what might go wrong." "Exactly," said the monk. "Preparation is useful. Worry is useless. You can prepare for different scenarios without worrying about them. You can watch the sky, maintain your irrigation systems, and make contingency plans, all while staying calm and trusting that whatever comes, you will handle it." This distinction between useful preparation and useless worry is important for understanding how to trust the universe while still being responsible. Trust does not mean being passive or failing to prepare. It means taking appropriate action from a place of calm centeredness rather than from frantic anxiety. It means doing what is yours to do and then releasing the outcome. It means engaging fully with life while maintaining an inner equanimity that is not dependent on specific results. After the monk's visit, the farmer experimented with this approach. When thoughts of worry arose, he would ask himself, "Is there any action I can take right now?" If yes, he would take the action. If no, he would consciously release the worry and return his attention to whatever he was actually doing. This simple practice transformed his life. He was no less prepared for the various scenarios. In fact, his preparation became more effective because it was not clouded by panic. But his quality of life improved dramatically because he was no longer suffering through weeks of anxious waiting. He had learned to trust the process while still participating actively in it. In Zen Buddhism, there is a teaching about the effortless effort. This paradoxical phrase points to the balance between engagement and surrender. Effortless effort means you are fully engaged, giving your best, taking appropriate action, but without the strain and tension that comes from thinking everything depends solely on you. It is like a master craftsman at work. The craftsman is completely focused and skillful, but there is no sense of strain or desperate grasping. The work flows naturally from presence and skill, rather than from anxiety and force. When you bring effortless effort to your life, you are participating fully while trusting deeply. You are doing your part without trying to do the universe's part. You plant and water the seeds, but you do not try to make them grow. You show up for your work with presence and skill, but you do not try to force specific outcomes. You engage in relationships with authenticity and care, but you do not try to control how others respond. You do what is yours to do, and you trust the universe to do what is its to do. This creates a beautiful partnership between your will and the universal will, between your effort and grace. There is a story about two monks who were traveling together to a distant monastery. One monk worried about everything, whether they had enough provisions, whether they would reach the monastery before nightfall, whether the path was safe. The other monk traveled with easy confidence, appreciating the journey, present with each step. When they encountered a swollen river that they needed to cross, the worried monk panicked. "We will never make it across. We should turn back. This is too dangerous." The calm monk simply looked for a safe crossing spot, found one, and carefully made his way across, then waited on the other side while the worried monk continued to fret. Eventually, the worried monk had no choice but to cross as well, which he did, terrified. When they both reached the other side safely, the worried monk said, "You were foolish to cross so calmly. Did you not see the danger?" The calm monk replied, "I saw the same river you saw, but I also trusted my ability to assess the situation and navigate it skillfully. My trust did not make me reckless. It allowed me to be fully present and attentive to find the safe path. Your fear did not make you safer. It made you suffer before, during, and after the crossing. We both crossed the same river, but I did so in peace, while you did so in agony." This story illustrates that trust does not mean ignoring real challenges or pretending everything is easy. It means meeting challenges with calm presence rather than anxious reactivity. It means believing in your ability to handle what comes and trusting that the universe will support you through difficulties, not necessarily by removing them, but by giving you the strength and wisdom to navigate them. The calm monk and the worried monk both crossed the river, but one suffered unnecessarily while the other remained at peace. This is the gift of trust. In your own life, you face rivers that need to be crossed, challenges at work, difficulties in relationships, health issues, financial concerns. These are real. Trust does not deny their reality, but trust changes your relationship with them. Instead of catastrophizing about what might happen, you assess the situation calmly. Instead of panicking about whether you can handle it, you trust your resourcefulness and the support of the universe. Instead of suffering in advance by imagining worst-case scenarios, you stay present with what is actually happening and respond from your center. This centered response is far more effective than anxious reactivity. When you are calm, you think more clearly. You see options you would miss when panicked. You access your intuition and inner wisdom. You make better decisions. You communicate more effectively. Your calm energy actually influences situations positively, while anxious energy tends to make things worse. So trust is not just spiritually meaningful, it is also practically effective. The universe delivers what you deserve more easily when you are in a state of calm receptivity than when you are in a state of anxious contraction. There was a businesswoman in ancient China who built a successful trading company through a unique philosophy. While her competitors worked themselves into exhaustion, trying to control every detail, she worked with focused presence, but maintained a quality of ease and trust. She would say, "I do my very best in everything I do. I prepare thoroughly. I treat people fairly. I make wise decisions to the best of my ability, and then I release the outcomes. I trust that if I am aligned with integrity and skill, the universe will support my success. And if despite my best efforts something does not work out, I trust that this is redirection towards something better." Her competitors thought she was naive and that her relaxed approach would lead to failure. But year after year, her business thrived while many of her competitors burned out or failed despite their frantic efforts. Interesting opportunities seemed to find her. The right people appeared at the right time. Problems that arose were resolved more smoothly than expected. When asked about her success, she would say, "I am no smarter or more skilled than others, but I have learned to work with the universe rather than against it. My calm trust creates space for synchronicity and grace. My competitors try to force everything through sheer will, which is exhausting and often counterproductive. I do my part impeccably and trust the universe to do its part. This partnership is the secret of my success." This story points to something important about the relationship between personal effort and universal support. It is not either or. You do not choose between making effort and trusting the universe. You do both. You bring your best effort while trusting that there are forces at work beyond your effort that are also contributing to outcomes. This both-and approach is far more effective than either passive waiting or anxious forcing. You are active but not controlling. You are engaged but not attached. You are working hard but staying calm. This is the sweet spot of manifestation, the place where human will and universal will work in harmony. In the ancient city of Sarnath, where the Buddha gave his first teachings, there lived a merchant named Gupta who was known for his peculiar business practice. Unlike other merchants who aggressively pursued every deal and worried constantly about competition, Gupta approached his work with remarkable serenity. He would open his shop each morning with a simple ritual. He would stand at the threshold, take 3 deep breaths, and silently say, "I offer my work today in service. Whatever is meant to come will come. I am ready to receive." Then he would go about his day with full presence and care for each customer, but without attachment to whether his shop was busy or quiet. Other merchants mocked him, saying he was too passive, that he would surely fail with such a lackadaisical approach. But over the years, something remarkable became apparent. Gupta's business thrived in ways that seemed almost magical. He always had exactly what customers needed, even when he had not specifically ordered those items. The right customers found him at the right time. His reputation grew without advertising. Opportunities for expansion appeared without him seeking them. He prospered steadily while many of his more aggressive competitors experienced boom and bust cycles. When students of spirituality heard about Gupta's approach, they would visit his shop to understand his secret. He would always say the same thing: "There is no secret. I simply understand that I am not in control of outcomes, only of my own presence and integrity. I cannot control whether customers enter my shop, but I can control how I show up when they do. I cannot control whether the economy is strong or weak, but I can control whether I stay calm and creative regardless of conditions. I have learned that the universe has its own intelligence about what should flow to me and when. My job is to stay clear, stay present, stay aligned with integrity, and trust the flow. When I do this, I am constantly amazed by how things work out." One particularly skeptical merchant challenged him, "But what about when business is slow? Do you not worry? Do you not try to force more customers to come?" Gupta replied, "When business is slow, I trust that this is a time for something other than serving customers. Perhaps it is time to organize my stock, or to deepen my knowledge of my goods, or simply to rest and renew my energy. I have learned that the universe has rhythms of activity and rest, of expansion and consolidation. When I trust these rhythms rather than fighting them, I am far more prosperous in the long run than if I exhaust myself trying to maintain constant activity." This teaching about rhythms is crucial for understanding how to stay calm while trusting the universe. Life has seasons and cycles. There are times of harvest and times of rest, times of expansion and times of consolidation, times of visible progress and times of invisible growth. The universe knows these rhythms and orchestrates events accordingly, but we often fight against them because we do not understand them. We think life should be constantly progressing, constantly busy, constantly producing visible results. When we hit a quiet period, we panic and think something is wrong, but nothing is wrong. We are simply in a different phase of the natural cycle. In farming communities throughout the ancient world, farmers understood this deeply. They knew that fields need to lie fallow periodically to replenish nutrients. They knew that forcing constant production would exhaust the soil. They worked with the natural rhythms of seasons, planting in spring, tending in summer, harvesting in fall, and resting in winter. They did not worry during winter that the fields were not producing. They trusted that this dormant period was necessary for future abundance. Modern life has largely disconnected from these natural rhythms. We expect ourselves and our lives to be productive all the time. We feel anxious during slow periods, thinking we should be doing more, achieving more, progressing more. But this expectation is contrary to natural law. Everything in nature moves in cycles of activity and rest. Your life is no exception. When you understand this and work with it rather than against it, you stay calm during the quiet times. You trust that they are not problems to be solved, but natural phases to be honored. You use them for what they are meant for: integration, rest, preparation for the next active phase. There was a woman in ancient Greece who studied the art of pottery. She was impatient to become a master, and she would work on her pots with intense, anxious effort, trying to force them into perfect shapes. Her teacher, a master potter, watched her struggle and finally took her aside. "You are fighting the clay," he said. "Clay has its own nature, its own timing. You cannot force it to be something it is not ready to be. If you try to shape it too aggressively when it is too wet, it collapses. If you try to work it when it has become too dry, it cracks. You must learn to sense what the clay needs in each moment and work with it, not against it. The student protested, "But I want to become skilled quickly. I want to create beautiful pots now." The teacher smiled. That wanting is what prevents you from creating beauty. Beauty arises when you are fully present with the clay, when you surrender your agenda and allow the pot to emerge through a dance between your intention and the clay's nature. The most beautiful pots I have ever created have been the ones where I got out of my own way and allowed something larger than my small will to work through me. This is the secret of all mastery, learning to partner with forces greater than yourself rather than trying to dominate through force of will. This teaching applies to every area of life. You are always working with materials, whether literal or metaphorical, that have their own nature and timing. Your career, your relationships, your creative projects, your spiritual path, all of these have an organic intelligence that you must learn to sense and work with. When you try to force outcomes through sheer will, you often create problems. When you stay calm, sense what is needed, and work in partnership with the natural unfolding, you become effective in ways that force alone could never achieve. The universe is always trying to deliver your good to you, but it must do so in accordance with natural timing and organic development. Just as you cannot force a clay pot to become beautiful by working it aggressively, the universe cannot deliver certain blessings until you and the situations involved have developed to the right stage. Your impatience and forcing actually slow down the delivery. Your calm trust speeds it up because trust creates receptivity and removes resistance. There is a profound teaching in Taoism about Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-doing or effortless action. This does not mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the Tao, the natural way of things. When you understand Wu Wei, you work hard but without strain. You are focused but relaxed. You are persistent but patient. You have goals but hold them lightly. You make effort but not desperate effort. This state of being is extraordinarily powerful because you are aligned with the fundamental currents of life rather than swimming against them. A master archer in ancient Japan embodied this principle. When teaching students, he would say, "Your target is not the distant circle. Your target is this moment, this breath, this drawing of the bow. When you are completely present and aligned, when your breath, your body, your intention, and your attention are all unified, the arrow will fly to the target naturally. You do not need to force it, you simply need to create the right conditions and then release. The universe will take care of the trajectory." Students who tried to force accuracy, who tensed up and aimed with desperate intensity, usually missed. Students who practiced being completely present and then releasing with trust usually hit the target. The difference was not in skill level, but in internal state. Force creates tension, and tension creates errors. Trust creates ease, and ease allows natural accuracy. This principle applies far beyond archery. In any endeavor, the quality of your internal state affects the quality of your results. When you approach your life with calm trust, you create optimal conditions for success. Your mind is clear rather than clouded by anxiety. Your intuition is accessible rather than drowned out by mental noise. Your energy flows freely rather than being blocked by tension. Your decisions arise from wisdom rather than fear. Other people respond more positively to your calm energy than to anxious desperation. Opportunities appear more readily because you are present enough to notice them. Everything works better when you are coming from trust rather than fear, from flow rather than force. There was a fisherman who lived by the sea and practiced Wu Wei in his work. He would go out in his boat, but instead of anxiously searching for fish, he would sit quietly, sensing the water, feeling the currents, waiting for the intuitive knowing of where the fish were gathered. His fellow fishermen thought he was lazy, spending so much time sitting still. But when he finally cast his nets, they were always full. He consistently caught more fish with less effort than those who worked frantically all day. When asked about his method, he would say, "The fish are where the fish are. No amount of anxious searching will put them somewhere they are not. But if I am calm and present, I can sense where they are. The water tells me. The birds tell me, the quality of the light tells me, my intuition tells me, but I can only receive this information when I am still and receptive. My frantically working companions are so busy doing that they cannot sense what needs to be sensed. They work harder but catch less. I work with awareness and trust, and the sea provides." This story illustrates that calm trust is not passive, but highly active in a different way. It is the activity of presence, of sensing, of intuitive knowing, rather than the activity of forced, anxious doing. Both have their place. Sometimes you need to cast the nets, to take action, to do the work. But if all you do is force and strive without the foundation of calm presence, you exhaust yourself and miss important information. The ideal is the balance the fisherman found. Periods of receptive stillness from which wise action emerges. In your own life, you can practice this balance. Before making important decisions, take time to be still, to listen to your intuition, to sense what is truly aligned. Before taking action on your goals, ground yourself in calm presence. Ask yourself, am I taking this action from trust or from fear? Am I flowing with life or forcing against it? Am I present or am I anxiously projecting into the future? These questions help you calibrate your internal state so that your actions arise from the most effective place. The universe delivers what you deserve, and what you deserve is determined not by your worthiness. You are inherently worthy, but by your capacity to receive. If you are contracted in fear and anxiety, your capacity to receive is limited. If you are expanded in trust and calm, your capacity is vast. It is like the difference between trying to pour water into a bottle with a narrow opening versus a bottle with a wide opening. The same amount of water is being poured, but one bottle receives much more. Your internal state determines the width of your opening. Calm trust creates a wide opening. Anxiety creates a narrow one. In the final days of the Buddha's life, as he lay under the sal trees preparing to leave his body, his disciples gathered around him in great distress. They had followed him for decades, relying on his physical presence for guidance and reassurance. Now, facing the prospect of continuing without him, they were overwhelmed with anxiety. "What will we do without you?" they asked. "How will we know what is right? How will we find our way?" The Buddha, with the gentleness that characterized his teaching, offered them a final instruction that has echoed through centuries. Be a lamp unto yourself. The truth is within you. The way is already clear. You need only be still enough to perceive it. This final teaching encapsulates everything we have explored about staying calm and trusting the universe. The guidance you seek is not outside you. The support you long for is not separate from you. The universe you are learning to trust is not other than you. You are an expression of universal intelligence, and that intelligence lives within you as your deepest wisdom, your innate knowing, your true nature. When you stay calm, you access this intelligence. When you trust, you align with its flow. When you let go of anxious control, you allow its perfect orchestration to become apparent. Throughout this teaching, we have explored many dimensions of this truth. We have learned that forcing and struggling often prevent the very outcomes we desire, while calm allowing creates space for blessings to arrive. We have discovered that the universe operates according to perfect timing that our limited perspective cannot fully comprehend, and that our job is to trust this timing rather than fight against it. We have seen that staying present in this moment is the only place where we can actually receive the guidance and support that is always being offered. We have understood that our worthiness is inherent, not something we must earn, and that our capacity to receive is determined by our internal state of openness or contraction. The practice of staying calm while trusting the universe is not something you perfect once and then maintain forever. It is a moment-by-moment choice, a continual returning to center, a daily practice of remembering what is true. You will forget. You will fall back into anxiety and control. This is natural and human. The practice is simply to notice when this happens and gently return to trust. Over time, with patient persistence, trust becomes more natural than fear. Calm becomes your default rather than something you must work to create. Flow becomes your normal way of being rather than a state you occasionally access. There is a story from the Zen tradition about a student who asked her master, "When will I finally arrive at enlightenment? When will I achieve perfect peace?" The master replied with a question, "When will the river arrive at the ocean?" The student thought about this and said, "The river is always flowing toward the ocean. It never stops moving in that direction. So in a sense, it is always arriving." The master smiled. "Just so. You are always in the process of awakening. There is no final destination where you will arrive and be done. There is only this continuous flow toward deeper trust, greater peace, more complete surrender. Enjoy the journey. Stop trying to reach some imaginary finish line. You are already on the path. You are already flowing toward home. Relax into the process." This teaching liberates you from the burden of perfection. You do not need to become someone who never feels anxiety, never tries to control, never forgets to trust. You simply need to keep returning to the practices that reconnect you with truth. When anxiety arises, you pause and return to the present moment. When you notice yourself forcing, you take a breath and choose flow instead. When you catch yourself in doubt, you remember evidence of the universe's support. These simple returns, practiced over and over, gradually transform your consciousness. Think of it like training a muscle. The first time you lift a weight, it is difficult. Your muscles shake with effort. But if you keep practicing, the weight becomes easier to lift. Your muscles grow stronger. Eventually, what once required tremendous effort becomes almost effortless. Trust works the same way. The first times you practice releasing control and trusting the universe, it feels uncomfortable and scary. But each time you practice, your trust muscle gets stronger. Eventually, trust becomes natural, and the anxious controlling that once felt necessary now feels like unnecessary suffering. You have everything you need to begin this practice right now. You do not need to wait for perfect conditions. You do not need to achieve some special state of spiritual advancement. You can start exactly where you are, with whatever challenge or desire is present in your life right now. You can take one small step of trust. You can release one small area of control. You can bring your attention to the present moment for just one breath. This is how transformation happens, not through dramatic leaps, but through small, consistent steps in the right direction. Consider what area of your life currently causes you the most anxiety. Perhaps it is your finances, your career, your relationships, your health, or your purpose. This area of anxiety is actually your greatest opportunity for growth. It is inviting you to practice trust in a place where trust feels difficult. Start small. Can you stay calm about this area for just 5 minutes? Can you go 1 hour without trying to control it? Can you spend one day trusting that the universe is working on it even if you cannot see progress? These small practices build the foundation for deeper trust. Remember the teachings we have explored. Remember the farmer whose sick camel saved his life when he trusted what seemed like an obstacle. Remember the monks holding empty bowls with calm receptivity, creating space for grace to fill them. Remember the fisherman who caught more fish by being present and sensing rather than by frantically doing. Remember the potter who created beauty by working with the clay's nature rather than forcing it. Remember the merchant who prospered through trust rather than anxious striving. These stories are not just interesting tales. They are maps showing you how life actually works when you align with universal flow. The universe wants to deliver your good to you. This is not wishful thinking. This is the fundamental nature of existence. Life wants to flourish. Consciousness wants to evolve and express itself in ever more beautiful and complex forms. You are a vehicle for this expression. When you align with this truth, when you trust the intelligence that is moving through you and all things, you become a clear channel for blessings to flow. When you contract in fear and try to control everything yourself, you block the flow. Consider the sun. It shines on everyone equally, never withholding its light based on worthiness. The universe is like the sun in this way. It is constantly radiating love, support, guidance, and provision toward all beings. The question is not whether these blessings are being offered. The question is whether you are open to receive them. Anxiety and control are like clouds that block the sun. The sun is still shining, but you cannot feel its warmth because you are hidden behind clouds of your own creation. Calm trust is like the clearing of those clouds, allowing you to feel the warmth that has always been available. As you move forward from this teaching, carry with you a simple practice. Each morning when you wake, before you get caught up in the momentum of the day, take 3 conscious breaths. With each breath, remind yourself, I am held by the universe. I am guided by intelligence greater than my understanding. I trust the process of my life. Then release the breath and any anxiety along with it. This simple practice, done daily, will gradually recalibrate your consciousness from fear to trust. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself in anxiety or forced effort, pause. Place your hand on your heart. Take one conscious breath. Ask yourself, am I trying to do the universe's job right now? Am I attempting to control what is not mine to control? If the answer is yes, consciously release that burden. Remind yourself that your job is to do what is yours to do with presence and integrity, and the universe's job is to orchestrate outcomes. Trust that the universe is better at its job than you could ever be. In the evening before sleep, reflect on your day with appreciation. Notice any moments where things worked out without your forcing. Acknowledge any synchronicities or unexpected support. Recall any times you chose trust over fear. This practice of noticing trains your mind to see evidence of the universe's support, which naturally strengthens your trust. What you focus on expands. When you focus on evidence of being supported, you see more evidence, which increases your trust, which opens you to receive more support. It becomes a beautiful upward spiral. The path of trust is not always easy. There will be times when circumstances seem to contradict everything you have learned here. There will be periods when the universe's timing makes no sense to you. There will be moments when staying calm feels impossible. This is all part of the journey. In these difficult times, remember that you are being asked to trust at a deeper level. You are being invited to discover that your peace is not dependent on circumstances going your way. You are being offered the opportunity to find the unshakable foundation within yourself. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a teaching about the lotus flower. The lotus grows in muddy water. Its roots are in the mud, but it rises above the water to bloom in stunning beauty, completely untouched by the mud from which it emerged. You are like the lotus. Your circumstances may sometimes be muddy, unclear, difficult, but your essential nature, the peace, the trust, the connection to universal intelligence, remains pure and untouched. You can bloom in beauty regardless of your circumstances when you stay rooted in truth and reach toward the light of awareness. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the gift of trust. When you trust the universe, you free yourself from the exhausting burden of trying to control everything. You liberate yourself from constant anxiety about the future. You open yourself to receiving blessings that your controlling mind would never think to pursue. You align with forces of creativity, synchronicity, and grace that are far more powerful than personal will alone. You discover that you are not alone, struggling against an indifferent cosmos, but are held, supported, and guided every step of your journey. Trust does not mean you will never face challenges. It means you will face them with a foundation of peace that cannot be shaken. Trust does not mean everything will always go according to your preferences. It means you will recognize that even unwanted developments serve your evolution in ways you may not immediately understand. Trust does not mean you become passive. It means your actions arise from inspiration and alignment rather than from fear and force. Trust does not mean you stop caring about outcomes. It means you care deeply while simultaneously releasing attachment to specific forms and timelines. As we come to the close of this teaching, recognize that this is not really an ending, but a beginning. You are beginning a new relationship with life, a new way of being in the world. You are learning to dance with the universe rather than fighting against it. You are discovering how to receive rather than only striving to achieve. You are remembering what you have always known at the deepest level, that you are not separate from the intelligence that creates and sustains all things, and that this intelligence is always working on your behalf. Stay calm. Trust the process. Do what is yours to do with presence and love, and release the rest. Allow the universe to deliver what you deserve, knowing that what you deserve is far greater than your limited imagination can conceive. You deserve peace. You deserve joy. You deserve abundance. You deserve love. You deserve fulfillment. Not because you have earned these through suffering or achievement, but simply because you exist. You are a beloved expression of the universal consciousness, and that consciousness desires your flourishing the way a gardener desires the flourishing of every plant in the garden. Walk forward from this moment with trust as your foundation and calm as your constant companion. When you forget, as you will, simply remember and return. The path is always here. The truth is always available. The universe is always ready to support you. Your only task is to stay open, stay present, stay trusting. In this way, you will discover that life becomes not a struggle to be won, but a dance to be enjoyed. Not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Not a test to be passed, but a gift to be received with gratitude and wonder. You are exactly where you need to be. The universe is delivering exactly what you need for your evolution. Stay calm, trust deeply, and watch with amazement as your life unfolds in perfect harmony with the intelligence that has guided the stars in their courses since the beginning of time. You are held, you are loved, you are supported, always and forever, without exception. This is the truth, this is the way, this is the peace that surpasses understanding. May you rest in this knowing now and always.